Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I have a box that I would like to unbox. This is from RVA Katana. I have my unboxing tool with me. So I'm pretty sure I saw a similar sword like this on Swordier. So I don't know if RVA Katana gets swords from Swordier and sells them, but I had never purchased anything from RVA Katana, and the prices looked about the same. So I figured I would try buying from them and just see what the experience was like. I will say, buying from RVA Katana got me the sword shipped much quicker than the couple times I bought from Swordier. Take a look on the inside here. Oh, I opened it upside down. How awkward. I assumed the other way would be the right side since that's where the label was. The packaging does not seem as nice as from Swordier, so maybe this is just actually from RVA Katana. Maybe they get it from the same factory or something. Maybe you guys can guess what this is. A sword from the Hobbit. This is the sword that Thorin gets. This is supposed to be from a similar place that Gandalf and that Bilbo/Frodo sword comes from. I happen to have my unboxing tool here. It's very similar to Sting. It's also very similar to the Greek Xiphos. And you'll notice both Gandalf's sword and Bilbo's sword, or Frodo's sword, has this leaf-shaped blade. And this one does not. If you cut this in half, then you'd have the falchion shape that this is. So it's like, this is like half the sword. Anyways, it's like kind of sort of similar, but not really. And anyways, I just felt like sword should have also been a leaf-shaped blade. The price seemed pretty good, so I figured, why not? What was the price on this? I'm glad you're asking, because I definitely have an answer. $350 sounds about right when you come to and with shipping and handling. Here is the sword. Now, if you watch the Hobbit movie, when Thorin gets the sword, you can tell that there's a slit in the scabbard. The actor, he opens the sword like this, and the blade hits his hand. So if it had been a sharp blade, he would have just like chopped all his fingers off. And fingers are gone. And that's not the only time he neglected his sword, by the way.
Thorin, you're letting him step on your sword. Thorin, you're stepping on your sword.
This is actually thinner. The belly of the sword, which is the thickest part of the sword, is only as big as kind of the throat of the scabbard. So that's the thinnest part of the scabbard. You'll be able to see that the scabbard is actually much thicker than the blade is. The handle seems to be made out of brass, would be my guess. I'm not quite sure what this is. This metal piece here is pinned in. The crossguard seems pretty thick. The spine of the blade is surprisingly thin. So the widest part here of the blade is sort of this belly area. If we had two Orcrists and put them side by side, we'd have what the other Elven swords look like. So it literally looks like you just took half the sword and just cut it right in half, even up to the guard and everything. I know some people like it because they say it gives those Falchion vibes. Surprisingly thin. This is a lot thinner than I thought it was going to be. I like the runes here. The pattern here is carved in. That looks nice. This definitely feels like it should be used two-handed, but it's very short for a two-handed sword. And the handle is short. But man, this thing is like kind of weighty, heavy. I happen to have a Falchion that I can compare it to. People who have watched the channel have probably seen this sword already. Here is my Valor Arms reverse edge Falchion. It's wider in the belly, and this feels so much more nimble. It's crazy. I don't know if you guys can see that. This is where the blades begin. The Orcrist sword is not that much bigger, but is substantially heavier. I suspect that is because whatever this guard and hilt are made out of, like, look how chunky that is. I never really liked this sword that much, but I do like Lord of the Rings. I do like The Hobbit. So I wanted to get a functional replica and just kind of see, what it was like, if my biases were correct. So far, I feel vindicated. But I'm going to do some test cutting with it and see how it goes. If it just performs like a beast, then maybe I'll forgive all the other stuff. But right now this feels heavy. This feels like a heavy one-handed sword that you could but potentially use in two hands. Let's do a initial sharpness test out of the box. I mean, it cuts. Yeah. Okay. Comes decently sharp. Definitely serviceable for backyard cutting. It's interesting because this handle is not straight like most European swords where you have just like a straight line. This one curves a little bit. And to be honest, I wasn't sure how it was going to feel in the hand, but this actually feels pretty good. Now, one thing to note that I've noticed immediately is that this transition from here to here, this catches on my second hand a lot. So that does not feel good. Of course, I imagine though, this is such a small grip. You just place your hand on here and you're not really moving very much. So as long as your hand isn't moving up and down at all, you'll be fine. Desires. I actually wish this belly swelled a little bit more, and then they'd have to change this design. This scabbard is surprisingly heavy, also pretty big for the sword, which that's because of the way they designed it to be fully enclosed and not have a slit here when you draw and open it. Yeah, everything, this is how I would kind of describe my first thoughts of the sword. Everything feels surprisingly heavy. Put this in here. How much rattle? I mean, you guys can probably hear that. A decent amount of rattle because there's a whole bunch of space in there. No retention. This here is the size of the belly of the sword. And so they wanted to have the scabbard have the same profile as the actual sword, so they made this way bigger. Yeah, you can tell even the throat is too big. The throat is too big for this. So this is not particularly well fitted. Maybe you guys can see that. You can still see some of the blade showing. This, oh my gosh. The throat here needs to be a little bit smaller. This here needs to be a little bit smaller. Yeah, that's my first impressions.